Moving to the Canadian Premier League, we have to discuss Cavalry. The 2024 North Star Cup champions have lost their way a little bit. Back-to-back matches where the offense has gone dry, putting something like 25 shots attempted at Diego Urtiaga of York United before being blanked at home at the weekend. And then on Tuesday, they were on the road again to Winnipeg, and they'll be happy that they're not going back to Winnipeg because it was a tough evening in the gateway to the West. Ultimately, two-headed goals from corner kicks sink Tommy Wheeldon Jr.'s ship, and for a second game in a row, the temperature, well, it reached a boiling point at the full-time whistles, coming together, benches clearing, not a brawl, but certainly nothing that Cavalry will be particularly proud of. That saw a player, pardon me, like Ote Intigny, get sent off. When we consider that this is a team that many expected to contend for the CPL Shield and still might, we do have to ask what's going wrong, Oliver, with Cavalry Football Club.
I don't know much, but I know I'm not going to be the guy who writes off Cavalry in July. It's just not going to happen based on the history of this team. I'm not going to do it. Like, I think there are some issues here for them to solve, obviously. My assessment would be they just are not creating enough chances or scoring enough goals compared to the top two teams in the league at this moment in time. And it's not just been these two games. They had a period in the season where Wolszewski was on song and they were blasting teams. And since then, they've scored 2 goals in only 2 of their past 9 games. So that, I think, is the pretty clear issue. You look at the underlying numbers, the attacking ones aren't as good as the top 2. The defensive ones are actually better than the top 2. They're still the best in the Canadian Premier League in that regard, although Forge have conceded fewer real goals. So I don't think all is lost here, but by any means. I think part of this is kind of the nature of Tobias Wolszewski. Like, he's a streaky player. The underlying numbers, even last season when he was the top scorer in the league, don't necessarily blow you away, but he just goes on runs where you can't, no one can stop him, as he did in the run to the CPL final and winning that North Star Cup last season. So Wolszewski hasn't scored since May. They're not going to be the best version of Cavalry or very successful if that continues to be the case. But I just wouldn't be betting against him getting hot at some point between now and the end of the season and the Cavalry's fortunes kind of turning around with that, because I think the supporting cast, when you look at Camargo and Musi and now Insigne coming in, is good enough from an attacking sense. And if they can get a bit healthier in terms of Shome and Kamzem, I think the rest of the team is pretty strong as well. So this has the potential, to me, to look like not much more than a minor blip by the end of the season.
That's what they hope. I mean, 1-3 in their last 5 in the Canadian Premier League, got dumped out of the Canadian Championship. They've only scored 1 or more than a goal in a game in 3 of their last 12. Like, that's not typical Cavalry form here. If you look at the data, though, the process is okay. They have the best expected goals per game in the Canadian Premier League by some margin. They're just not finishing. In fact, they're minus half a goal per game, underperforming compared to their XG in terms of goals scored to their expected goals. So they need to show some finish. What I worry about this team, and I think it spoke to the changes bringing Insigne and Selves into this team, is I think they need some freshness. This team looks very tired to me. It's not just physical. I think it's mental. I think it's emotional after winning the North Star Cup last year, playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I just don't think that they fully hit like 3rd or 4th or 5th gear. I feel like when I watch them play, they're playing too slow. Yes, they're creating chances and they have some really good players in the team, but they look fatigued and they lack the sharpness in 2 areas. Not only in the opposing area where they've struggled to finish the chances that they've created, but defensively as well. You said it, Adam, conceding 2 goals on corner kicks in their last game. This is very un-Cavalry, which shows maybe a lack of focus or maybe some tiredness, fatigue that's running through the team right now. They've had to lean on some young players a lot more than they probably would have liked because of injuries in the team as well. So get Shome back, get Baldissimo back, get Camden back, and maybe bringing these players and kind of ramping them up, add something to the team. But it's similar players, but the outcome isn't the same. One other thing, I don't think it can be stated enough how big of a loss Dan Klomp was for this team. Not only is a leader at the back, he scored big goals for this team when it was necessary. He was a center back who played like a central midfield. They have no other player like him. So I think losing a Klomp type player who was arguably the best player in the Canadian Premier League the past 2 seasons, that is a significant loss, and there's no replacing him like for like. And the players that they brought in have done okay, but they're not Dan Klomp. And he's a true difference maker in a league with very few of them.
Further to that, the offense. Let's talk a little bit deeper, a little bit more, about that. I think you could be concerned as a Cavalry supporter if they hadn't combined for 4 expected goals and 40 shots attempted with a series of games less than 72 hours apart. It's not to say it's going well and the Cav supporters are and should be happy, but I don't know that they're quite running to turn the flag upside down and raise it to full mast. But only 3 goals in their last 5. Camargo probably should have had 2. I mean, there's no probably. He should have had 2 goals in each of his last 2 games. So the offense, while it's not, the output isn't mind-blowing, Gareth. Are you concerned it's something deeper about their ability to score right now? Because as you highlighted, it's been a bit dry of late.
They just need to finish their chances. Like, it's not just the chances missed by Camargo, who's arguably been the team's best player all season long. Ali Musi, like, man, like the chances that he's missed over the last 3 or 4 weeks have been incredible. Tobias Warshevsky hasn't scored in since the beginning of June? This is the Golden Boot winner in the Canadian Premier League. These big players, and these are players with experience. We're not talking about youngsters or players that are being amalgamated into the team. They need to step up and play their part. There have been chances. Quite frankly, their key players need to be better. And who else is going to chip in? Like I said, the Klomp goals over recent years were incredible. 4 or 5 every year, and they always seem to come at big moments. And when Cavalry takes a lead, they very rarely, go back to a position where they're losing points. So, yeah, I mean, it goes to their big name players. It's not as if they're not playing poorly. They're just not sharp enough right now. And there's a lot of time left in the season. This is Cavs season, their time of year. But it'd be concerning for Tommy Wheeldon Jr. if these players aren't showing the ability, the desire to get it over the line and start really executing. That's what it comes down to right now. Simply put, just executing.
Oliver, It's a very simple question before we move along, because as it's been pointed out, there are 2 elite teams in the Canadian Premier League at the minute. They have 1 combined loss through something like 32 games. And then there's Cavalry, Halifax, and the Halifax Wanderers in that second tier, if you will. Are you more content with them mid-table, or are you looking a little bit further ahead and still considering them a true title contender?
Well, they're a true contender for the North Star Cup. Like, I really think that they will be absolutely in the mix for that trophy. They've probably given themselves too much work to do now to compete for the CPL Shield, because partly of the high bar that Ottawa and Forge have set. But, like, I don't know. Again, if Warshevsky gets going, like, Musi's provided, I think, a good amount of goals and assists this season. Camargo has. You've got Insignian now as well. Saloof has been very good off the bench in his CPL career, less convincing maybe as a starter at times. Like, I think there's going to be plenty there. If it's just about getting the main man going, and he hasn't been going for 2 months, and the results, I think, have gone accordingly. Of course, there's other things at play. You know, they've missed some big chances. Carducci, I think, has not been at his best over the past few weeks and has made a couple of errors. So there are things there, but to me, they seem like fixable things for Cavalry. They've just got to get the main man going. I think I don't want to oversimplify, but I think that's the long and short of it here.
Sometimes really good players, Adam, have bad seasons or seasons that are below their standard. And right now, there's too many. You can oftentimes get away with having 1 or 2 of them, but there's a number of players who simply need to do better. There is lots of time, but each and every week as they go on, we can't just be saying if.
But who would we say is having a really bad season?
Below his standard, Tobias Warshevsky, Ali Musi, the 2 front forwards. They haven't had anywhere near the production required down the left-hand side. And the center back position is a significant drop-off from where it was a season ago. And they've been relying on really a first-year central midfielder to keep everything attached because of the players who've been out through injury as well. This hasn't been an easy campaign for Cavalry. He's been good, but think about how solid that position has been in recent years. It's a big ask on a very young player. It's nothing to do with what Peepgrass has or hasn't been doing. It's just he's been the glue of a team where there's been a little bit of a revolving door. So I'm just looking at things right now. I know at Forjar, they're undefeated. Even when they haven't played well, they don't drop points. Atletico Ottawa, they don't care who they're playing. They want to go and score multiple goals against you ever a game and steamroll sides. Now look at a York United team who has more attacking threat right now, in my opinion, just in terms of looking dangerous, than Cavalry, who have now shown in recent weeks that they're not conceding cheap goals anymore, and they're much more robust and well-balanced from a defensive perspective. So, look, it's been okay from Cavalry. Again, they haven't played bad. I'm not saying that any of these players have really played poorly, but when you're looking at three other teams right now that are hitting the heights that they are, then you have to consider them the fourth best team in the CPL right now. There's room for improvement, yes, but we can't just be sitting here saying if every week. They need to go and show it.
But I think this is all being a little bit overstated because of the moment they're in right now and how the past couple of games gone. Like Ali Musi is probably going to score the most goals this season that he's ever scored in a season in his professional career. Like he's not been that bad as far as the season has gone as a whole. Washevsky is ice cold right now. I think he was a bit better against Valor and got the assist, so maybe that's a sign of better things to come. Herdman, hasn't built on last season. That's been a loss, but now they've brought in two players on that left side. I don't know. I'm just not really seeing the alarm bells yet.
They started the season great. Some of those numbers were bolstered by the fact they started the season really well. I'm talking about the last 6 weeks. I'm reacting, and this isn't just like a 1 week blip here. They got knocked out of the Canadian Championship, 1-1-3 in their last 5. Like, this is now a trend. And seeing on top of that, a little bit of the petulance, the frustration that's bubbling over on the field, right at the end of the game, melees, dust-ups, back-to-back games. Like, it's okay. I get it against York to a certain degree based upon the history there. What was going on in Winnipeg on Tuesday night? That just screamed frustration to me.
I felt they were getting picked, I think.
Well, that's what happens in football, especially when you're playing a desperate team.
Some tasty challenges, I would
Come
give
on.
them that.
Okay, but what ends up happening is you lose one of the players that have just been brought in
of course.
You're going to rely upon. Like there's a knock-on effect here, okay? So they need to get it together. I have faith. I'm with you. I'm not going to rule them out, but let's just speak to the reality of where they're at right now. It isn't to their standard, and they've set that bar exceptionally high, but this is nowhere near the way that they should be playing at this juncture of the season, especially when the teams in front of them look to be, a step above where they're at.
All right, match week 17 in the Canadian Premier League looms, and we're talking about Cavalry as if they're at risk of missing the playoffs, but they're 9 points back of Forge for second. They don't have to go back to Hamilton. They're 1 point clear of York United and the Halifax Wanderers. They don't have to go back to Halifax this season.
Well.
They do have 2 away trips to Atletico Ottawa. If they can pip one, table could get tight, but as of now,
Cavalry apologists right over here on the
CPL
show.
Shield
Look at these guys.
feels like it's starting to slip away. I want to know quickly and very quickly, there was that dust up in Winnipeg. According to canpl.ca/discipline, they take the referee post-game match reports and organize everything for us. Ali Musi still suspended for 2, pending an appeal. Elias Hamaris got suspended for 3 games for violent conduct, coming off the bench to involve himself in the scuffle. And for a Cavalry perspective, it is only 1 match for Gauthier and Tigny for a second yellow, not a straight sending off. So the Cavs dodge a big blow. We will see them on the road on Monday, a full slate of CanPL matches this weekend right here on OneSoccer.